Welcome back to Base Sunday. Our next guest is a former television executive from Univision and Telefutura, and she is now the president of Palacios Productions, as well as the founder of an online magazine. It is called A True Latina. Please welcome Frances Palacios to the show, and good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about you and how you came to start this online magazine and why.
Absolutely. I found, as I was doing some research, that among the different generations of Latinas, we were not communicating and sharing our stories about tradition and culture, etc. And I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose these wonderful, rich heritage that we have.
And you talk about these different generations. Now, tell me a little bit more. You start with boomers, right? Tell us what a boomer is.
Well, a boomer is me, someone born from a certain time period, you know, in the 50s, etc. And we think differently. For example, I'm techno-leery. And these millennials who have been born within the last, 12 years, that's all they grew up with, or 25 years. I have 3 at home, and somehow we were not communicating very well. Again, I'm afraid of Facebook, but I had to get on Facebook, those kinds of things.
In order to access people who are millennials, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's our growing membership, is the millennials.
And in between you have the Gen Xers, I'm very familiar with, because I am one myself. And so let's talk about a little bit about your magazine. Now, you wanted to tackle real issues that affect Latina women, and this month you talk about breast cancer, obviously, because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Absolutely. Coming from that public affairs background in the community, I've always been very passionate about working with our Latino community in the Bay Area, because here's where I live. And I found that in doing the research, again, we were not talking about real issues, and we were not talking about different generations. And so trying to bring out those stories, trying to emphasize on our Latina culture in particular, because we make a lot of the decisions at home, we know, and so we're leading the pack here.
Now, in this issue, I was reading about it, and you talk with a woman who talks about her grandmother battling with breast cancer, and what about the Latina culture made this more difficult for this grandmother?
Well, to that specific story, if you live in a foreign country such as Mexico, sometimes you don't go to doctors because they're mainly male, so it's a cultural experience. You don't want them feeling your breast. Perhaps the macho male in the household will not allow you to go to the male doctor. So it's a different cultural nuances. Now, here in the U.S., because the focus is Latinas in the U.S., although we have some from Puerto Rico and they are U.S., but Nicaragua and other, because we're on the web, is that over 25% of Latinas do not have health insurance, so they're getting tested and they're having later and larger lumps by the time they actually get tested for breast cancer. So it's a huge issue for Latinas in the U.S.
It's so difficult to bridge that gap of culture, especially, when you're talking about, a little bit of the embarrassment and being held back maybe by the husbands. Now, the other big issue that you tackle in this online magazine is domestic abuse. How is this different, do you think, in the Latino community?
Well, I mentioned the macho. Again, sometimes you've got that aggressive male that perhaps has immigrated from another country and perhaps is not aware of Latinas here. They're a little bit more open and a little bit more
independent.
Absolutely. And so it's a battle. Not only a battle at home, but a battle as, you go out into the workforce. Perhaps he won't let her work. Perhaps he won't let her, again, visit that male doctor to get checked. And so what we've seen, though, is a rise in the teen violence.
And which is surprising.
Absolutely. It's scary. So a lot of these teens are in relationships and already getting into these huge issues of domestic violence. And so perhaps the background at home has, something that's reoccurring in that household. We're not sure, but we need to talk about it because we need to make sure that we are aware that there's solutions out there, that there's help, and lots of theories.
And in talking about it is really the best way to really tackle a problem and make it okay to talk about it and tackle it and deal with it. Now, in doing this online magazine and dealing with really serious issues like breast cancer awareness and domestic abuse, what do you hope to achieve for your community? Because I know you're very involved in your community here.
Absolutely. We just want to, again, empower, entertain, inspire, make it fun, friendly, But let's talk about it. Among the different generations, I've yet to have a traditional join on board. If I'm techno-leery, imagine the traditionals. So we just need to get the conversations flowing, and I think empower and inspire.
Okay, so if you want to check it out, we want to thank you. Thank you for joining us today. But if you want to check it out, it's very easy to do. It's her website. It's called atruelatina.com. It's her online magazine. And so it has all kinds of issues, as you mentioned, immigration, as well as breast cancer awareness this month. So we want to say thank you to all of our guests, and thanks for watching this week's episode of Base Sunday. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. We're there as well, because we are not techno-leery. We're going to see you next week with Frank, but we leave you with a little taste of jazz.
Let someone start believing in you. Let her hold out her hand. Let her touch you and watch what happens. Want someone with a look in her eyes and see into your heart. Let her